Muted.
Okay, well, why don't we go ahead and get started. My name is Bill Nelson, and I'm the Grand Canyon Council Advancement Chairman. And our committee is responsible for overseeing advancement in Grand Canyon Council, which is most of the state of Arizona, except for Tucson and right south of Tucson. Grand Canyon Council, though, takes care of the rest of the state of Arizona. Little on logistics here. We do have a chat window in the lower right corner of your screen. You can go ahead and put any questions that you have while we go through the presentation in the chat window, and I will address the questions at the end of the presentation. I'll try to keep everybody on mute. It's just a lot quieter and it rolls a lot faster if we do it that way. So we'll do that, and we'll try to address your questions at the end. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go through the new requirements that will happen next year. Before we talk about the new requirements, there is a new Scoutmaster Handbook that is out. They changed the title to Troop Leader Guidebook. It is intended to be the guidebook to help people who are responsible or are interested in a troop program. What is the program element of the troop and how is it supposed to be run? That's what this guide is for. There are 2 volumes to it. Volume 1 is the introductory volume. Everything you need to know to start a troop off, how to do troop meetings, how to do Scoutmaster conferences, what is advancement, how are you supposed to do a Court of Honor, all that kind of stuff. It's in Volume 1. Volume 2 hasn't been released yet because they were waiting for the requirements to settle down, and the requirements have now settled down. So we expect Volume 2 to be released soon, within the next few weeks. So there'll be 2 volumes. Either volume is very big. Each one is about 100 pages long. And next year, starting in early January, we will release a new handbook. And the Boy Scout handbook will change. This is what the new cover looks like. It'll have all the new requirements in it, of course, and it'll have a place for the sign-offs for the new requirements, and it'll have all of the explanations of the new requirements. The purpose of the Boy Scout handbook, for those who don't know, is it's the Boy Scouts of America basic camping book, how-to book. And in the Boy Scout handbook has the skills and explanations of the skills that are required for a boy to get to first class. It also has information there on what is required for Starlight and Eagle and Palms, but there are other books like Merit Badge books that explain how to get there, how to do the merit badges and get to those ranks. But the skills are explained for all the way up until first class are explained in the Boy Scout handbook, and that's the purpose of the book. For more advanced skills, there's a different handbook out there, and it's called the Field Guide, the Field Book, the Boy Scouts of America Field Book, BSA Field Book. You can get the Field Book at the Scout Shop, and it has much more skill, higher level skills for things like kayaking, canoeing, how to make an igloo, how to make snow shoes, how to camp in the snow, how to dress for that kind of environment, how to do more high adventure things. That is in what's called the BSA Field Book, and it's available at the Scout Shop. So it's your next handbook up from the Scout Handbook. When the Boy Scout Handbook is released next year, there will be at scouting.org, which is the national website, there will be a PDF file out there that you can download, and that PDF file will have an insert that you can put into your current Boy Scout handbook to sign off on the new requirements. So you don't have to buy the new book, but you have to do the new requirements the way I show you the transition plan is. So you'll have to abide by that transition plan. The new handbook, though, will also have information on the new requirements that the old handbook doesn't have, and it'll also have things like links to web pages and things boys can scan in on their phones and give them a little animated thing that explains how to do certain skills that are in the book. So they're modernizing the book and the handbook a little bit to make it more 2016 of the handbook. Now, this is the transition plan and the plan that we would like you all to use to transition to the new requirements. Right now, today, you don't do anything, all right? Starting January 1st, any boy who joins Boy Scouts on or after January 1st must use the new requirements. So if he has not started on any Trail to Eagle requirements, he walks in the door, he transitions from Webelos to Boy Scouts or whatever after January 1st, 2016, he must use the new requirements. So for that boy, it makes sense, go buy a book, start on the new requirements, and use the new requirements from that day forward. Boys who are currently working on Scout to First Class can continue to work on Scout to First Class until the end of 2016. At the end of 2016, they have to go to the new requirements. Or if they make it to First Class, whichever comes first. So once they get to First Class, then they have to use the new requirements. So any boy who's working tenderfoot to First Class, once he hits First Class in 2016, he needs to start in on the new requirements. Anybody who's already First Class and say they're currently working on Star, when he gets to that rank in 2016, he then has to switch, and for the next ranks, he has to use the new requirements. So if he's working on Star now and he finishes it in February, when he becomes Star, he then has to use the new requirements for Life and Eagle and Palms. The same for if he's working on Life now, he has to use the new requirements for, once he makes Life in 2016, he has to use the new requirements for Eagle, from Life to Eagle. Now, the changes in requirements are minor in Star, Life, and Eagle, so for them it's really not that big of a deal. You will see some changes, but they're very minor. The changes between tenderfoot and First Class are major changes, and that's where the bulk of the changes are. At the end of 2016, January 1st, 2017, everybody must be on the new requirements. So anybody who's not on the new requirements by the end of 2016, which should be very few people, will have to use the new requirements January 1st, 2017 and forward. So just about everybody should be on the new requirements by the end of next year. Now, this handout, this explanation, and the subsequent requirements that I'm going to show you are all on a web page here at the bottom of the page, this scouting.org/program updates. And I would suggest you write that down, because that web page will have all of the requirements on it, and this guide, and a frequently asked questions guide that comes in handy when you have questions. So, and I'll give you that link at the end as well. All right, so this is at a very high level. This is these are the major changes that you're going to see. So first, Scout becomes a rank. We'll talk more about that. that it is now different. It's not a Scout badge, joining badge anymore. It's a rank. And it will parallel the requirements for Scout. You'll see parallel closely Webelos Scouting Adventure. So if a boy has gone through Webelos Scouting Adventure as a Webelo, he will have seen just about all the requirements that are in the scouting rank or the Scout rank. He still has to be tested as a Boy Scout, though. We won't just automatically give him the badge, and you'll see that. They have added service in all ranks. Every rank now you'll see has a service element in it. They have to do service hours in every rank. And in life rank, there's some of the service hours have to be conservation related. They have added requirements for healthy eating and healthy habit requirements. There's more in that realm in the requirements. There's some reordering in the tenderfoot to first class because they pulled some second and first class requirements and put them in the Scout rank requirements. When they did that, they left gaps in second and first class, and so they reordered some of the requirements and they added some new ones, and you're going to see those. There is now a physical fitness element in each rank from tenderfoot to first class. Not only do they have the tenderfoot requirement to do a physical fitness test, but there's a follow-up on second class and there's a follow-on on first class. So the idea is to have a good, healthy lifestyle built as they go from tenderfoot to first class. So that's a new, some new requirements there you haven't seen before. The big one on the camping side is first class now requires 6 camping nights. So there are 10 troop activities that must be done. 6 of those are camping nights that have to be done. And we'll talk more about that when we get to first class. Leave No Trace has been our outdoor ethics guide in the Boy Scouts now for a while, and they're adding another component called Tread Lightly. Tread Lightly is basically leave no trace while you're in a vehicle. And that vehicle could be you're in or riding on a vehicle. So it could be like a boat, it could be a bicycle, it could be a kayak, it could be tubing, it could be anything like that. And there are elements then of conservation and outdoor ethics that are related to those. And that's part of this Tread Lightly. And they have their own principles for Tread Lightly. And so then that's been added. And that'll affect some of the outdoor ethics requirements, and you'll see that. Weather safety and risk assessment and mitigation have been added. So they've added some weather safety components, and they've added some what I call risk assessment and mitigation. Hey, you learned your first aid. Now you know first aid. Now tell us also, what can you do to avoid getting hurt while you're hiking? So not only did you learn first aid for hiking, but what can you do to avoid getting hurt to begin with? So that's kind of risk mitigation. And those sorts of requirements are now in the Trail to First Class. And they have put in a duty to God component in Scout Spirit. Every rank has a Scout Spirit requirement, and they've inserted a duty to God component, and we'll see that. So now we're going to go through all of the requirements that are going to be effective on January 1st. And in the following slides, you'll see red letters. And when you see red letters, that means that part of the requirement is changed. So we'll go ahead and talk about Scout Badge first, and then we'll go right to the requirements. So this is the Scout Badge that we know and love. This is what it looks like. And it's a joining badge. When you join the Boy Scouts, you fill out an application, you talk to the Scoutmaster, you do some very simple things, and we give you a badge. And it's called the joining badge, the Scout Badge. And so That's the way it currently exists. The Boy Scouts of America surveyed about 4 years ago, surveyed over 2,000 people and asked them that were scouts and parents and scoutmasters, and asked them, do you want us to make the scout badge into a rank? And overwhelmingly, over 80% of the responses were, yes, we would like to make it a rank. We want them to have it equal to the other ranks and make it a rank. So they took them up on it, and they made it a rank. Now, in making it a rank, they did a couple of things. One is that they changed the badge. The badge now looks like the other rank badges that have more of a gold fleur-de-lis, and then you get it changes as you get up towards first class. So they changed the fleur-de-lis to gold, and they put in requirements that would be expected in a rank, not just an award for joining. So they added things to it. Now, since they added things to it, we as parents and adults need to realize that they probably aren't going to get this the very first meeting they walk in the door. It's going to take a little bit, and you're going to see why it's going to take a little bit. If they've already been through Herald of Light, it'll be easier for them, but if not, it'll be, it may take a couple of weeks before they can get this rank, because there's memorization involved. So these are the requirements. Now on the left side, you see the red lettering. On the left side, we have the new requirements here. And then on the right side are the old requirements. So for the joining badge or for the scout badge, it's on the right-hand side. And for the new one, that's the new scout rank, it's on the left-hand side. And so right off the bat, before they even start the requirements, something has changed. And what has changed here is they have to have joined a troop. So they actually have to have filled out an application and submitted it to the troop. So they are now a member of the troop. They can't even start these requirements until they are a member of the troop. So that's changed, all right? So now they're a member of the troop. Now they can start the requirements. Now a question has come up in the past, well, what do we call them until they get the scout badge? Well, you call them a scout. Everybody's a scout. Who's registered as a Boy Scout, everybody's a scout. And that's true for Cub Scouts too. They're scouts. And venturing crew members are scouts. Everybody generically is a scout. So you would call them a scout even though they haven't made scout rank. Okay, so what you'll notice in the requirements is that it introduces scout spirit right off the bat here. Because in every rank we have scout spirit. So not only had they had to have memorized the oath, law, motto, slogan, and outdoor code for Herald of Light, but they also need to understand what is that about and why you need to live that in your daily life. And so that is brought up right at the get-go here. And we have memorization requirements. They not only have to be able to recite it with everybody else, but they'll have to memorize it and repeat from memory the oath, law, motto, slogan, and then down here on the bottom, the outdoor code. So before they can get their scout rank, they have to have this memorized, and not only memorized, but be able to say in their own words what is the meaning of the oath, law, motto. So you say, okay, here's the scout oath. What does that mean to you? What does it mean, duty to country? What is it? What does this mean to you? Be able to say, as a 10-and-a-half, 11-year-old would be able to say, what is it that this means to you? Now, notice that a lot of the stuff says things like, after attending at least one Boy Scout troop meeting, do the following. So here they have to do these things after attending a troop meeting. We introduced the patrol method right up front. Those of you who don't use the patrol method, you're going to have to start using it because these requirements require that you do. They need to have a patrol. They need to have a flag. patrol needs to have a yell, and they need to explain what they are, and they need to explain why they're important. They need to describe what the 4 steps of Boy Scout advancement is. Now, this is a lot of adults don't know what this is, so it's time to learn what this is. This is how do you advance, and in the Boy Scout program, there are 4 steps of Boy Scout advancement. A scout learns something: how to tie a knot, how to recite the Pledge of Allegiance, and then he's tested. The Scoutmaster tests the scout. Now, the Scoutmaster can delegate that to anybody else, but the Scoutmaster is responsible that the scout has properly been tested and done exactly what the requirement says that he has to do. And then he's signed off by the Scoutmaster or the designee. That's what a sign-off is the fact that the person was tested and he passed the test. And then he's reviewed, which is the board review process, which checks to make sure that the first 2 steps were done. And then the 4th step is he's recognized. He's given a badge or some kind of recognition. Those are the 4 steps of Boy Scout advancement. So they're explained in the new handbook, but that's what they are, and the boys need to know what they are. Towards the end here on the requirements, they did insert pocket knife safety here in this first badge, the first rank, because it's pretty common that a boy goes on a camp out with a pocket knife the very first thing and he starts whittling. So he gets his whittling chip anyway right away, so he might as well go through the safety and get it checked off. So he gets that checked off. Yeah, this is the pamphlet here from learning about child abuse, a parent's guide. That pamphlet that's in the handbook that the boys are supposed to read with their parents and go through the exercises, and then the parent says, yeah, he did it, and you sign them off. That's the same. That was there before, and it's still there. In addition to that, he has to earn the Cyber Chip Award for his grade. Now, the Cyber Chip requirements will be in the new handbook. They're also available online at scouting.org, and there are different requirements for different grade levels. So at his grade level, which will be elementary school probably at the time that he joins, he will have, in the upper part of the elementary school grades, he will have a Cyber Chip set of requirements for that. It has to do with the internet, it has to do with online safety, and then he needs to go through those requirements and earn the Cyber Chip. That's a requirement for the Scout rank. And then sometime during the Scout rank, while he's going through all of this, he needs to have the Scoutmaster Conference. Now, the way it's worded is to make sure everybody understands you don't have to have a Scoutmaster Conference as the very last thing you do, but sometime while you're doing the requirements, you need to do the Scoutmaster Conference. And that's the new Scout rank requirements. That will, once he gets through all of that, there's no board review, he gets the Scout rank. All right? And then we'll go into Tenderfoot. We'll just go through the ranks here really quickly. This is the Tenderfoot changes here. One of the big things on the new Tenderfoot to first class requirements is you're going to see there's less, or there's more and more demonstrate things. Rather than just explain, they want them to demonstrate. So in this case, in this example, while on a camp out, demonstrate the appropriate method of safely cleaning items used to prepare, serve, and eat a meal. So rather than just explain how do you wash dishes and how do you clean up, tell me how you do it, the Scout actually has to demonstrate doing it. Somebody has to witness that, and he has to have done it the proper way, and then he gets signed off. So in this case, a little bit harder than it was before. He actually has to do it. You're going to see more of those in the requirements. There's more demonstrate here. And they put in the square knot, which used to be an adjoining knot. It's now put into Tenderfoot, and they just worded it to make sure everybody understood that the scout has to actually demonstrate these knots. Here is a requirement where they're describing the common poisonous or hazardous plants, identify any that grow in your local area or campsite location. So this is local poisonous plants, but it doesn't they're not necessarily native poisonous plants. They are, and that's what changed from the old one. So these are poisonous plants that are in your area. An example is oleander. Oleander is all over the place in Arizona. Used for windbreaks, used for landscaping. It's one of the most poisonous plants known to man, and it is not a native plant to the area. It was imported, but it's definitely one he could talk about and to meet this requirement as a common poisonous or hazardous plant. This is an example here for C of a risk avoidance requirement. Tell what you can do while on a campout or other outdoor activity to prevent or reduce the occurrence of injuries or exposures listed in Tenderfoot requirements 4A and B, which are the first aid requirements. So, okay, now you learn first aid. Now tell us how you can avoid having to get hurt and having to use the first aid. That's one of those risk avoidance requirements. And they talk about, we've always had that he creates a first aid kit, and they talk about a little bit more about, hey, you need to bring this with you everywhere you go, kind of thing. On the physical fitness requirements for Tenderfoot, they did a little bit of changing. They took out pull-ups and the long jump. A lot of kids at 10 and a half, 11 years old can't do pull-ups, so they took that out and replaced it with modified stretch and sit, and they expanded the run from a quarter-mile run walk to a mile run walk. And they also put in some options on sit-ups. You can do sit-ups or curl-ups. And then they record what they can do in 60 seconds. Okay, so it kind of explains the test to them, and that's for the Tenderfoot. And then they're to develop a plan for improvement of each of the activities listed in the requirement and keep track of it for 30 days. So what's new here is that they do the test, they develop a plan of how they're going to exercise and describe it, how they're going to do it to someone so they can get signed off. And then they're going to do it for 30 days and then record their results for it. Okay. And then in Tenderfoot, they introduced the first service hour requirement. So in that case, there's 1 hour service that they have to do in Tenderfoot that was approved by the Scoutmaster for Tenderfoot. So we're starting to add the service on that we talked about at the beginning. The Scoutmaster Conference, notice that it says successfully complete, while working towards Tenderfoot rank and after completing the Scout rank, requirement 7, participate in the Scoutmaster Conference. The Scout rank requirement 7 is the previous Scoutmaster Conference for the Scout rank. So what you're going to see, it's worded in these requirements that they want you to have a separate Scoutmaster Conference for every rank. They also want you to have a separate board of review for every rank, even if the boy is doing the requirements in parallel. That way the boy feels that he is indeed advancing into a higher and higher rank. So You do separate Scoutmaster conferences. You do separate boards of review for each rank. And this is where they introduce Scout Spirit as the full Scout Spirit requirement, which is to demonstrate Scout Spirit by living the Scout oath and law in your daily life, and tell how you have done your duty to God and how you have lived 4 different points of Scout oath and law in your daily life. So there were some questions that came up as, well, what does that mean to tell how you have done your duty to God? And that's new, so I got a couple of slides. The Scout tells how he believes he's done his duty to God. It's a tell. It's a one-way communication from the Scout to the Scoutmaster. It's meant to be a self-reflection of the Scout on how he's done his duty to God. At an early age, it can be very brief. This boy is 10 and a half, 11 years old. He's not going to go into a huge exegesis. He's just going to tell how he does his duty to God. There is no standard that he is judged by. He tells you, you listen, and you sign him off. He does not have to belong to an official religious institution to pass this requirement. There's no requirement in BSA to belong to a church. Now, he has to express a belief in a higher power. He can't say he's an atheist. He can't say he doesn't believe in God, because that would be then something that he can't do his duty to God. So what happens when that happens? Well, if he says he doesn't believe in God, then it's actually a membership issue, because he's supposed to believe in a higher power. And so the situation needs to be addressed. You basically stop the Scoutmaster conference and say, well, you know, we're going to need to talk to your parents about this, and it needs to be approached really cautiously, and but the parents need to be informed that there is a requirement that the boy does believe in a higher power. The requirement is actually that he abides by the BSA's position on religious principle, and there is a statement on religious principle. I have a slide on it. It is in the adult application at the top of where all the verbiage is about joining and everything. There's a quote from that section of the bylaws right there, and you can reference it to the parent if they want to look at it. But you don't counsel the Scout. It's not your job to counsel the Scout and try to convert him or anything else. It's really left up to the parents and the boy's religious advisors, and then they come back with what's going to happen. Okay. If it happens during the board of review, you do the same thing. You stop the board of review and you go let the parents guide you. Now, there is more verbiage on this in the frequently asked questions guide that is at the scouting.org/program updates. It is, there is a lot in there already on this, and I am being told that there will be an update that will add more information because people have had questions on this duty to God thing. And expect it, I thought the end of this year, but it may not happen until after the holidays, just because they finally got approval to move on, but they've got to pass it by a number of people before it actually gets put on the website, and it always takes a few weeks to get it on the website. So it looks like it may not happen until after the holidays. The requirement itself is not going to change. It's just the explanation in the FAQ that would change. Second class rank, we'll go through this a little bit quicker. There is a requirement now for camping on at least 2 of the 3 campouts. Spend a night in a tent that you pitched or other structure that you help erect. So that would be something that they actually, this is supposed to be, tents that they put together. It says it could be a lean-to, a snow cave, or a teepee. It cannot be a summer camp tent that like Geronimo puts up, or a cabin, or an Adirondack, or anything like that, because that's not something that the Scout put together. There is a new knot that's introduced in second class called the sheet bend. It used to be taught in Webelos. I don't know if it still is or not, but it was not taught in the Boy Scout level at all. And it's a joint. It joins two ropes together, and it's now been put back into second class. So the sheet bend is now back in second class. And they're doing the risk avoidance stuff. So I'm going to skip. A lot of the stuff is just explanations and clarifications, just trying to make things clear. And they've inserted some risk avoidance stuff. And then in second class, the fitness stuff comes back. So after completing tenderfoot requirements, which was that fitness test, be physically active for at least 30 minutes each day for 5 days a week for 4 weeks. So there is a 4-week period in second class a month that they need to continue to exercise. Now that doesn't mean that they have to finish tenderfoot and then start their 30 days for second class. All they have to do is finish that tenderfoot requirement, and then after that they can start this second class requirement. So it should not affect getting to first class in 1 year. They should not affect it at all. And then towards the end, the 7C requirement is the working with the drugs, going to a drug program, and getting somebody in the community to talk to you about drug abuse and that kind of thing. They used to be that's all they had to do. They had to attend that. Now they say that you need to also not only talk about it with your family, which was in the old requirement, but you also have to report to your Scoutmaster or somebody he designates about which parts of the oath and law relate to what they learned in the drug abuse program. There is a lot in second class on budgeting that was never there before. A lot of the budgeting stuff they didn't really bump into until they started getting into personal management and NERPADGE. Well, they took some of the budgeting things and they put it in the second class. So now there's some budgeting that actually has to happen in second class. And now an additional service requirement. So there was a service requirement of 1 hour in tenderfoot, and now there's a service requirement of 2 hours in second class. Now the way I read the tenderfoot requirement and the second class requirement, it doesn't say they have to be separate service projects. So you can do 3 hours of a service project and have it count for both requirements. And then we talk again about the Scoutmaster conferences need to happen for each rank, and they make sure that you don't double up. And then we'll go into first class. Here is where we're talking about the 10 activities and the 6 campouts. So there's 10 activities, and it used to be 3 campouts. If you look, 10 separate troop activities, 3 of which included camping overnight. Well, they changed it to 10 activities, 6 of which include overnight camping. These 10 activities do not include troop or patrol meetings. On at least 5 of the 6 campouts, spend a night in a tent that you pitched. So you're not going to make it if you go to Geronimo and and you're in a tent that Geronimo pitched. It's got to be your own tent, or other structure that you helped erect, such as a lean-to or snow cave. It doesn't say they can't be consecutive, but it does say they have to be campouts. So the intent here is that they're going on separate campouts. That is going to be an issue for LDS troops. The requirement, the Green Book was changed this last May to reflect this requirement. And the Green Book now says that instead of trying to get 11-year-old scouts to first class completely, that the 11-year-old scouts should get as far into first class as possible. And so that allows LDS troops to, LDS 11-year-old scout groups to stay with 3 campouts. And they would have to get the other 3 campouts the next year when they get into the troop. However, everybody has that requirement for first class. You have to do 6 campouts. And that should not be an issue with an active troop. An active troop should be camping a lot, so it should not be an issue of getting them to that in a year to 18 months. Tread lightly is new. This is where the tread lightly requirements are put in, and again, they have their own principles. I've listed them here. They're going to be in the handbook, and they're going to explain what they are. So if you want to know what they are, so you can make sure the boys get through this requirement, somebody's got to buy a book and read them. So that's where they're going to be explained. Then down here, using the menu plan in first class requirement 2A, make a list showing a budget and the food amounts needed to feed 3 or more boys. And then it says secure the ingredients. So it actually is meant to be passed going on a camp out, all right? It doesn't say you have to go on a camp out to do this, but they have to go and secure the ingredients. Now this is the boy securing the ingredients. It's not mom securing the ingredients. The meant is that the boy go out and buy them. If the boy doesn't know how to go buy the ingredients, then the scoutmaster should be teaching the boy how to go and shop for his patrol and how to proportion the food. And the best bet there is that the scoutmaster teaches the entire patrol, and he takes the entire patrol shopping and has them learn how to do it and do price comparisons in the whole 9 yards. So that's my recommendation, and the scoutmaster does that until the boys are ready to do it on their own, and they don't depend on mom doing it. There was a requirement in first class to lead a grace during a meal, and that was removed, just as a note. And then down here, they have to do a camp gadget or structure. They added the word structure, which I liked, because I used to always teach my scouts when they're doing a camp gadget to build a fort. When they're lashing, lashing a tripod is boring. It really is. But lashing a fort is nice. That's cool. And then after you lash your fort, you can do something with it. So, a structure is not a bad thing to lash together. There's now a GPS requirement. They don't have to buy an actual physical GPS. They can use an app and a phone for GPS. And there's a little bit more on the GPS requirement in the FAQ file. And then some explanation. They had to find 10 native plants, and they explain this now that you find native plants, you can also show, when you show evidence of them, you can say, well, you can take a picture. As long as the scout has taken the picture. It's not something he's Googled and grabbed from the internet, but it's a picture that you know that he has taken, and he shows you, then that's an evidence of a plant, okay, or an animal. So he can do it that way. He can show you a picture. He runs off into the woods and he takes a bunch of pictures with his phone or whatever, and he comes back. So see, this is a oleander, and it is. So you can then sign them up. There are new weather hazard requirements. This is where you're going to find them. You're going to find them in the first class section. So I mentioned that there's weather hazard requirements. We've had some incidents in the past where boys and adults have gotten hurt because of thunderstorms and weather issues, so extreme weather issues. So they wanted the boys to learn a little bit more about them. And there are now boating requirements for the first time. And they don't have to actually be on the water to pass these requirements, but they have to know about parts of a boat and parts of a paddle. So they're introducing boating requirements to Boy Scouts. Again, we've got emergency action requirements that were for the home and places where you are and emergency situations. So they talk about hazards and emergency action now in first class. And of course, we've got our Stay Fit requirements. That is still another month of physical fitness activities, and they keep track of it, and then they share their challenges and successes in their physical fitness program. There are now environmental requirements that have been embedded into the first class requirements, and they talk about doing things and how much trash is produced on a family outing, for example, things like that, some sustainability stuff. And more service. Again, every requirement has service. First class has 3 hours of service. Now, in this requirement, it says it can't be the same projects used for tenderfoot and for second class. So for this case, it's got to be a separate project. It actually says in the requirement it's got to be a separate project. And we have the duty to God in first class. All the Scout Spirits now, from tenderfoot on to Eagle, have the duty to God in it. And again, the Scoutmaster Conference is separate, and the Board of Review is separate for each rank. So that was first class. Now these Star, Life, and Eagle are pretty simple. There's not a lot of things that changed. Duty to God was inserted into Star. The older Scout Patrol used to be called the Venture Patrol. I don't know if you guys remember that, but it is changing the name. It is now being called the Older Scout Patrol. And let's see. And in this explanation, it is just called a patrol. But if you wanted to call it something, it would be the Older Scout Patrol. And in the Scoutmaster Handbook, which is now called the Troop Leader Guidebook, in the new Troop Leader Guidebook, it refers to that older boy patrol as the Older Scout Patrol. And the word Venture Patrol is gone out of all the literature. And it's going to be gone from the Boy Scout Handbook. So it's no longer are we going to confuse venture patrols with venturing crews, which was happening a lot. The Outdoor Ethics Guide is a new term for the Leave No Trace trainer. Because they combined Leave No Trace and the new Tread Lightly program, the whole program is called Outdoor Ethics. And so the name of the position of responsibility is changing from Leave No Trace Trainer to Outdoor Ethics Guide. So his name is changing. The badge will be different. The requirements to be in that position of responsibility will be released early next year, and it will be easier for the scout to get in that position. The 2-day training that current Leave No Trace trainers are supposed to go through, he doesn't have to do, I don't think, in the new requirement to get in. He's going to just, the job description is going to be a lot easier for him. So. And in the book, it talks about positions of responsibility that a lone scout can satisfy. There aren't a lot of lone scouts out there, but they included them in the list here. Now, at the star level, they're going to have to go back and do the exercises in the pamphlet that's in the handbook. That's at the beginning of the handbook. They're going to have to do that again. There's going to be a special section for STAR requirement, and it's going to be aimed at older boys. It'll also be as a PDF file on scouting.org that you can download, because people tend to lose that pamphlet after they start out. They also have to earn the cyber chip for their grade level. And it's assuming at that point when they get to STAR that they're going to be in a different grade level. They're going to be grades 9 to 12 or older grades. And so the cyber chip requirements are going to be different for the older grade levels, and they wanted them to be exposed to those safety precautions, and so they want them to earn the cyber chip award again for their new grade level. And so that is now a requirement in STAR. So this is new, this area here. In life, not much changed. They added the conservation requirement. They have to do 3 hours of service, must be conservation related, total of 6 hours. We always had a total of 6 hours. What's different now is that 3 of them must be conservation related. Nothing really new here that we haven't talked about. No real changes. Eagle, there's the Duty to God conference that he does, and that's all that's really different. Wording changes with positions of responsibility. We've already talked about those changes. Clarifications, and that's about it. Again, palms are really no real big changes there either. All right, so now we're at the end. So I'm going to look at, I guess before I do, this is that website again, scouting.org/program updates, where you can find information on what I just presented and all of the requirements. Go about 2/3 of the way down the page, and you'll see a Boy Scout section, and all the new requirements are there. If you have questions that are not answered on that page, feel free to send a question to this email address. Write this email address down. This is it goes to me. It's the Council Advancement Chair's email address. And I usually respond pretty quickly to mail sent to that. If you have feedback on the requirements that you want, it's not a question, but it's more feedback. Hey, you forgot to do this. You should have done this, that kind of stuff. Go ahead and send it to advancement.team@scouting.org. That team reviews that email on a regular basis, and if there's going to be updates later on, they'll update it. If there's more information they need to put in the frequently asked questions, common questions that come up, they'll update the frequently asked questions based on it. So I know they look at that, so that's a good thing to look into. Okay, so I'm going to look at the questions here that were asked. Rick was asking, where will that insert be found again? The insert will be on scouting.org, but we don't know where. It probably will be in program updates, or a link to it will be, because they tend to put everything there. I will definitely send out to my mailing list, and if you're not on my mailing list for the council advancement emails and you want to be, send an email to this account and I'll put you on it. But I will definitely send out to that list where to find it when the time comes. James is asking, is this the only rank patch that is changing? Yes, it is. Just the Scout rank patch is the only one that's changing. Laura, can we get a copy of the Duty to God FAQ? Yes, if you go to the scouting.org/program updates, let's go there. I'll show you what it looks like here. We'll load up one of the browsers. So if we go to scouting.org program updates, you get to this page, and this is what it looks like. You scroll down a bit and get all through all the Cub Scout stuff. You're in the Boy Scout section. The first thing that's there is notes on transitioning to the new requirements. So this talks about what I showed with that flow chart, how to transition. And then the next one is the requirements parallel comparison. So it's the same thing that I showed you, only without the arrows. There are no arrows in it. And then the third one here is the 2016 Boy Scout requirements FAQ. So that's where you're going to find your FAQ for everything. It's Duty to God, and it's got questions about other things that they have found common questions with the advancement changes. Grady asked, where will these slides be available to use within our troops to communicate to other adult leaders? They are available. If you send me an email, I will send you a link to where to get to them. And that's it. And anybody else have a question, you can put it up real quick. Otherwise, we're going to adjourn. One of the questions was, is this recorded, and will there be an audio? And the question of that, or some sort of a video audio thing. I did record it. I hope it came out. I will post the recording somewhere, and I will send a link to my mailing list and to anybody who sends me an email looking for it. I may put it on Facebook as a link too.